What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? Welcome back. I appreciate you tuning in to another real estate episode that I am sure not only inspire, but educate you on how you could take your life to the next level and create whatever your dream is by your design. And so today I got on the show my brother, Mr. Brian Adamson. Brian, you want to go ahead and say what's up to DreamNation?
DreamNation, what's up? What's going on? I'm happy to be here. Appreciate the invite, Cass.
Oh, absolutely, my brother. Now, I always like to make sure that I give respect to everyone's story and I make sure that they get the proper introduction. And the way that I do that, especially in real estate, is I compare us entrepreneurs and thought leaders and pioneers to superheroes. And the reason being is because we're constantly flying around the world. We're putting on a cape. We're trying to solve some of the world's biggest problems and be able to do some of the world's biggest deals. And so we all know behind Superman, there's a man known as Clark Kent. We get to see the backside of the man behind the S on the chest. And my question to you is, behind the man that we know as Superman, which is Brian Adamson, who's that Clark Kent on the backside? Tell us a little bit more about who you are and where you came from.
Absolutely, man. So it's funny, I just recently shot a video on this because I think, to your point, people see us or where we are and it seems so out of reach, right? And the reality is that Clark Kent and me is started from super humble beginnings, grew up west side of Detroit, blue collar family. Father was a firefighter. Mom was a cashier at a grocery store for 25 years. Started getting in trouble at 17, mixed up in the streets. I was looking at a 4 to 10 year felony, kicked out the house at 17, went to college, flunked out, had my daughter at 18. By my 18th birthday, I was the statistic. I was the statistic coming from where we come from. And but God had a different plan for my life. Throughout that process, I found Christ, gave my life to God. Still didn't understand fully what that meant, but it started something in me that I couldn't have done on my own. And fast forward, was fortunate to beat the case that I was fighting for 9 months. Got rematriculated back into college, got my 4-year degree completed, raised a beautiful daughter who's now 18 and in school studying pre-med. And but through that process, finally was provided an opportunity to do something that was impactful and financially fruitful, and that was real estate investing. And so a friend of mine in Detroit, he was flipping houses. This was back in 2006. I got started my junior year in college, and I didn't know what flipping houses meant, didn't know anything about real estate. But what I did know was that he needed money to help his buyers close, because at that time, his stated income loans was at an all-time high. Right. Anybody that had a post and wanted a loan could fill out the form and get one. And so these people weren't financially savvy enough to actually come in with the down payment to move into their homes. And so I would leverage my refund checks in college. I actually got started in this business from a $7,000 refund check and got tired of spending them on all the stupid stuff that every other person at 2021 would spend them on. And I would leverage my refund checks as a down payment for these people to move into their properties. My boy who was flipping the properties would give me a return on my paper. And so we did a ton of these my junior year. On the other side of that, my senior year in 07, bought 3 rental properties and built a brand new construction home fresh out of college. And so things were looking good, 23, 24 years old. And then the market contracted.
That's right? What I was just about to say. In the market.
Yes. Again, ignorance is expensive and we can't afford it. That's my saying. Right? And so I was ignorant to the fact of what was going on in the market. I was just being faithful and opportunistic and taking advantage of the opportunities that were afforded to me, but just had everything set up the wrong way. All of my properties were in my name as opposed to in a business entity. So, some very expensive and tough lessons to be learned about that. So when the market contracted, I was exposed personally and from a liable perspective, wrecked my credit, all the rest of it. But because I had, built up the liquidity through my lending efforts, I was able to take advantage of the depressed market. So when the market contracted, I was able to buy a little over 20 rental properties from 2008 to 10. And so my cash flow was strong. I just still hadn't had any kind of formal education on what I was doing. Again, I was just, innate ability of a hustler. You know what I mean? I was just,
Right.
kind of taking those faith steps and leaning on God and my own abilities and position myself well. So I was in corporate America out of college, as well as grew my real estate portfolio early on, but still didn't understand or appreciate what I was doing. I was still immersed in an environment around individuals where I was the enigma. I was doing things different than everybody else. And so the yardstick by which we measure our success is typically that of which the environment that we're confined to. And so I thought I was doing good. And yes, I seemingly looking back, I was, but I could have been doing that much better had I made investments in myself and educating myself on how to really take what I was doing and to scale it. And the adverse of that happened in result of not having an education. And that was 2012, 13, 14, when the market was still down. Started selling off a lot of my properties, 90% of my portfolio, because they needed work, because I didn't set them up the right way. So as they started to need roofs and HVACs and all the rest of it, I started selling off my portfolio in the down market. Cost me $2 million. Had I kept that same portfolio that I put all this work and effort and energy into, if I'd have held on to that same portfolio prior to COVID, I could have cashed out $2.8 million at the top and I only spent like 200 grand on that back then. This is why ignorance is expensive and we can't afford it.
Can't afford it.
And
Let me
so-
ask you before, because and the story is so powerful already. And there's so many nuggets right there, so much wisdom. Did you have opportunities to invest into yourself? Because nowadays people do, but back then, I'm just curious, were you saying no to the opportunities, or you just felt like the opportunities never presented themselves?
And people never believe me when I say this, but believe it or not, the environment that I was in, I never knew that seminars existed until 2015. I've been investing since 2006. I had no idea that seminars and that they existed until 2000.
Never got hit with a Than Merrill video or nothing?
None the wiser, bro. None the wiser. And so when I did figure that out, I was in a unique spot because I was about to start flipping houses on my own. I did a cash out refinance on the first property that I bought. And so I equity stripped it. This is a house that I bought for 28 cash and it was worth almost 100. So I pulled out 70% of the value. And so I literally had the liquidity ready to go. I got pre-approved the Lima 1 and I was about to start flipping houses, right? After doing cash flow for 7-8 years on my own. And finally, the infomercial, it finally happened. I had my special moment, the infomercial, the free thing, the 3-day thing, and then the $40,000 thing. And it was like, I was the guy in the class that was like, I saw everybody freaking out. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for.
Right.
So rather than me spending the 40 on trying to do one deal and figure it out on my own, I'm like, I'm gonna spend 40, join this network. And then true to form, I went out and raised over $1 million in the first 7 months. I bought over 18 flips. I think I finished that year on 23 flips or something like that. But I never looked back after that, bro. I cannot express to people the value in making an investment in yourself and getting the intellectual property and the intellect that you need to go out. And people look at it too, one for one. Well, if I make this investment, when am I going to make that back? The fact of the matter is, when you make that investment in yourself, you can make money forever after that.
Man, so look, I'll be honest. The first time that I ever heard about a real estate seminar, and it was the same thing, it was like 40,000. I'll be honest, I couldn't figure out like how I can make that investment into myself. And I think that's where a lot of people are. So there's a couple different things, but we're going to make sure that we keep it. While we're on this topic, how are you able to pull the trigger? Because for a lot of people, they're hearing about these seminars now, and it might not even be 40,000. It might be a $1,400 program that they feel like they want to invest in. For you, was it a credit card? Was it you just waited 30 days and you said, I'm going to take 50% of these paychecks coming out of, like, how were you able to pull the trigger?
Yeah. So part of which was I did the cash out refinance. So I had some money already sitting there. And this is where your faith kicks in, because I'm looking at like how everything aligned. Believe it or not, that day at work for the free seminar, I had like a couple $100,000 claim from a customer that I had to go deal with. And imagine walking into your boss's office at work and telling them like, hey, I did XYZ on this file. I'm gonna pick it back up tomorrow, but I have to leave today. So when people say I can't never do it because of work or this and that, when you convicted about what you want out of life, you find a way. You find a way. And I know I digress, but I had to share that piece because that's
Facts. That's facts.
but essentially, I leveraged my credit, I leveraged my wife's credit, and the cash I had on hand, and we pushed it all to the center of the table, bro.
Wow, man, it's so crazy. But I know what it's like when you say like you something that I learned from one of my brothers, and I always shout him out, Nehemiah Davis. But he had said something to me one time, and he said, "Look, for me, it either had to work or it had to work. There was no plan B. I was all in." And when you talk about that conviction, I heard it. Like people can hear it, and I think a lot of the times we know that we don't have a plan B, but we're so afraid to go all in on our plan A that we just do nothing. So it's inaction, right? So I love that you said that. Going back to your first deal, talk to me about how, because a lot of people right now, they're looking at this pandemic and they're feeling like there's going to be some type of a crash. Interest rates have been at an all-time low. People are leveraging already over the last 3 to 4 years. People have been leveraging a lot because money's been so cheap. So they're like, yo, I know this market's going to correct itself, but I don't even know where to start to find my first deal. Talk me back through how you found that first deal, because it's a similar situation where it looks like everything's on the up and up, but now we might be hitting a correction sooner rather than later. Do you remember how you found it and what that looked like?
I do. The unique thing about business, and our business in particular, is it's a contact sport. Right. And I think that's where many people fail, is that they're on the outside looking in, and the YouTube University, and then this guy live and that guy live. And while that's great for information, you have to take action in order to start the process, get the traction, build the inertia, and eventually get the momentum that you need in your business. And so for me, the fact that I started private lending, leveraging my refund checks, had no idea what I was doing, the conversation started to be different. So if I'm around other people and they have real estate endeavors, although I just started with my little $7,000 refund check, I'm like, oh yeah, I do real estate too. So what you do? Oh, I was lending my man. You really don't even know how to articulate it.
Right.
But it's enough that now you can identify with those that are doing things. And so it just so happened, I knew someone that was trying to get rid of 3 properties, and I was in position. I had the credit worthiness, and then like organically, I met a mortgage lender, which they were everywhere back 2006 and 7.
Oh yeah.
And we found a way to put it together. No docs. I was in college. I owned 3 rental properties and started breaking ground on new construction property while I was in college. I didn't have a job. You know what I'm saying? So that just that tells you the type of world we were living in back then.
Right.
But essentially, that's how I found it, bro. Just from organically taking action.
I love it, man. And so when we talk about today, right, for a lot of people that's out there and they say, look, I don't even know where to start. What I love about what you've been able to do is to teach people that, one, there's no excuses, because you've taught people how to virtual cash flow, how to virtual wholesale, all of the things that you can do that it doesn't necessarily need to be in your marketplace. There's some people out there that's listening or watching, and they say, you know what, I'm in Colorado right now. Properties are too expensive. Or I'm in New York right now, or California is too expensive. Talk to me about, in today's market, like how would somebody even go, if they're right now, they'd say, you know what, I want to invest in real estate. I want to go find my 1 property, 3 properties, doesn't matter. I want to go find that property. Where do they start?
So you bring up a very good point, bro. We have students in 4 countries right now in our mentorship program: Denmark, Afghanistan, Japan, and then all throughout the United States. And so we have students in the likes of California, in the likes of New York, that are flipping properties in cheaper markets like where we come from in the Midwest, in Detroit, in Ohio, in Chicago. Some of our students are even flipping in North Carolina, Atlanta. Some of these, what I would say less expensive markets that have better margins. So one of the first things that we teach you in the program is how to analyze markets right from your laptop, right? We've got free sites that we show you how to go in, correlate the data, and look at where should you be outside of your market. And that's so important because, and the reason we teach it from a remote platform is because of that very reason, because many times people are relegated to whatever the market gives them. And in times of a challenging market, like a market correction, et cetera, you need to be able to pivot and go wherever the deals are, because there's always deals. I don't care if it's a good market, it's a flat market, or it's a super hot market. There's always deals because there's markets within markets. And so you just got to get educated. And I'm going to keep saying that. We might as well keep ringing the bell. But the more you get educated, then you possess a skill set to go and do exactly the things that we're talking about.
No, and I love that. And so I got to be honest, there's people out there, I always want to give the nuggets. I want to be able to extract the most value. So there's somebody out there that's listening and they want to know, what are these websites that he speak of, right? Like what are those? Are we talking Deal Machine? Are we talking PropStream? What are these websites? Where can I go find something to at least get started?
So I'm going to give everybody a nugget. It's free. All right. It's called bestplaces.net.
Okay.
You go in there. Now we got a course that teaches you exactly how to utilize it, right? Because it's a lot of information. It could be information overload if you don't know what you're looking for. But on bestplaces.net, not only can you drill specifically into the zip codes that you want to go into, but you can literally figure out the demographic of what segment of the market is the most home ownership. Obviously, the highest home ownership, let's just say if in Chicago, for instance, the highest or the highest percentage of home ownership is in a $300,000 price point, then obviously if you go into Chicago, I'm telling my realtor, listen, I need distressed properties that are somewhere between $150,000 or less that I could come in and put 50 to 100K into and exit at 300K, because that's going to be my most advantageous price point that I want my ARV to be at, because that's where the largest demographic of homeowners are at. So just things like that we can look at, free data. You don't have to buy widgets. This stuff is available, but you need to be educated on how to go in and analyze that data.
I love it, man. And when you say ARV, for anybody that's watching or listening, they're wondering, what does ARV mean, and why should we be looking to calculate an ARV?
Yeah, so in our game, you have to reverse engineer everything, and it starts with the end in mind. So your ARV is your after repair value, which is synonymous with your projected sales price at the time of sale.
Got it. No, I love that. And so for you, when you were starting out and you started out flipping houses, a lot of people love flipping houses because it gives you that lump sum cash flow. One thing that we know is people don't normally stay at flipping houses because you have to graduate to buy and hold, which fortunately for you, you were able to do both. You had 3 properties, but then you were getting into flipping, and you said you raised $1 million within 7 months. But let's talk about this flipping side, because a lot of people right now, that's always been a flashy thing. If I could walk out with 60,000, 100,000 off of one property, I sell it, I'm done with it, that's great. What were some of the challenges that you had when you first learned about flipping houses? Or better yet, when some of your students come into you and they try to flip their first house, what is a common theme of where they go wrong at and things that they don't recognize in the beginning?
Man, that's good stuff, bro. I would say analyzing comps. So it's 2 different things. Number one, you have to get really good at analyzing comps. You need to understand what are the rules for comps. It's not this moving target. Like, we teach you exactly the vein of which an appraiser who has the final say in what your home is valued at, we teach you predicated on their fundamentals as to how they assess the comps. And so we teach you from that vein, right? Because we start with the end in mind and we reverse engineer our way there. So that's one thing, is understanding the comps. The second thing is, and this is for my students specifically, is I have to make sure they don't grow weary in a sense of having investor fatigue. What does that mean? That means that a lot of what we do is running reps. So even when we know we have the insight, we have the intellect, we know the right way of doing it, when we keep running reps and we keep getting our nose and things aren't moving at the pace in which we anticipate them to, then investor fatigue sets in. And then all of a sudden we have convenient amnesia of the things that we learned, and we don't stay diligent and prudent in that vein. So not knowing how to evaluate comps and determining what your ARV really is, and then investor fatigue for students, are probably the 2 biggest things that get you in trouble in our business early on.
Got it. And I love that. I think in the beginning, just like you said, starting with the end in mind. That's something that I tell people all the time. Like, when you get into a property, any property, what's your exit strategy? because we are going to have an exit strategy at some point. It might be 6 months, it might be 6 years, it might be 16 years, but you're going to have an exit strategy. Are you looking to flip this property because you need lump sum cash? Or maybe you're somebody right now that you say, hey, you know what? I got a good job right now. I'm looking to have that depreciation of my taxes. I'm looking, whatever it might be, understanding what your end in mind is, because that's the way that you already know, okay, there's going to come lumps. I'm going to have some L's with this, but I've been able to forecast for those. So I love it. I love that you said that. For anybody that is thinking like, yo, I want to learn about these ARVs and these comps, but I don't necessarily have the money, or I don't know where your course is. Like, how can I go find out, is this is something that I can get from my realtor or anybody else that can help me? Is this something that there's another gym website that I could go figure out what these comps are? Where can I go find out what comps are right now today?
So I would strongly suggest that people use a realtor. I think that realtors are starting to become the quote unquote dinosaur of our business. Everybody's like, how do you work around them? How do you get away from them? Look, the reality is this. Realtors will save you in a ton of instances. And here's why, especially as a new investor and starting out. And I know it's sexy and that guy said do it all off market, but here's the reality. You don't pay for the realtor. The seller pays for the realtor, you as a buying agent. I mean, you as the buyer, right? You're going to have a buyer agent that's going to represent you. They're not costing you any money. They are there to service you. So, you know, while you cutting your teeth and getting your feet wet, absolutely use a tour guide, somebody that's in the business. They have a fiduciary duty to you. That's a responsibility of them being an agent. I know, because I was one at one point in time as well. So you utilize a real estate agent, because if you use Zillow, use these and you're not well versed in what you're looking at, you can have a big misstep. And not to say that agents who aren't investors also couldn't give you the wrong comps, which is why education again is important, so that you can educate your agent on what you're looking at as an investor. But I would certainly suggest that you go find an agent, and more importantly, have the education of when you find that agent, you're able to direct the traffic and let them know what it is that you need from them.
What's up, Dream Builder? I hope that you're getting a lot of value from this episode. Note takers are money makers. So I hope that you're taking lots of notes, and I hope that you'll implement something that will help to change your real estate career. If you want even more access, even more resources, and you want a community to help keep you accountable, well, I want to invite you to head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. Again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. That's where I hang out, as well as the team, and we host so many resources to help you along your real estate journey. So again, that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Let's go ahead and hop back on into it. I love it, man. I love it. Me being a realtor, and there's a lot of realtors that are listening at this right now. They're getting the education on both sides. And I'm sure you just champion some people like, yo, don't be talking about dinosaurs. We still relevant in this game. So I love it, man. Now talk to me about right now. A lot of people are trying to figure out, how do they get leads? And that's a big thing. That's always a big thing. And that's the sales and marketing is the oxygen of any business. And so we've had people that have come on that said new wave is text marketing, right? Text marketing, everybody's got text messages. Some people say, hey, a lot of people are still sleeping on Facebook ads, right? Some people say, hey, email is still the number one way to get that one-on-one with people, and it's not going anywhere. Everybody's got an email. What's been that thing for you? Like, where do you tell people, hey, don't sleep on this? This is an opportunity where you could start. If somebody wanted to get their first lead or do their first deal in the next 30 days, what avenue are you recommending that they implement today?
So if they got the money and assuming that they want to do something off market, like in our off market wholesaling, our two biggest marketing channels would be SMSs, which are text message blasts, and ringless voicemails. For those that are maybe not ready to go there and set up systems and such, Craigslist. Listen, you know what I'm saying? People like,
they sleeping on Craigslist? We sleeping on Craigslist?
We in such a society of now everything is about widgets and gadgets. And I get it. And I'm all about time compression. But some old school real estate fundamental stuff just works. And Craigslist still works. You know what I'm saying? And
it's like picking up the phone. People don't want to pick up the phone no more. But if you you're like, wait, somebody just answered? Like, you real? Right. You really the seller? Exactly. Go ahead.
And it's so much value in that, Cass. You know what I'm saying? To get somebody on the phone, to get knee to knee with somebody and go break bread and take them out for coffee is value in that. I cannot express to y'all. You got to get away from hiding behind all of these different things and just make contact with people. So cold calling, driving for dollars, and just without even getting that intuitive, Facebook, Instagram, like these things that you're on every day and using them for whatever other purposes, they can be a huge asset to you if you just be more deliberate about what it is that you want to get. Like it's a ton of people on Facebook right now that's the lead that you need. You just gotta put yourself out there, immerse yourself into those communities, and start aligning yourself with other like-minded individuals, and say what you want. Like literally, just tell people what you want. You'd be surprised if you just put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable, that you will find everything that you need.
Man, and I don't even know if you noticed it, but you dropped a major nugget that for me, I was like, yo, you said start taking people out. You got to get knee to knee, go grab coffee with somebody. Most of the time, I would say even the highest people that we've had on the show, and when I'm talking to people, nobody ever talks about that second level. Everybody's trying to get that seller to commit, which I get it. We want to be time efficient. So we're trying to call somebody up and then we're going to e-sign the docs, right? We're going to send over everything electronically. But that next level hack is saying, yo, I get it. You got these properties. I just want to show you I'm a real person. Would you be available to grab coffee on Thursday morning at 9 a.m.? Now you got a way better chance of this seller not ghosting you. Even this buyer really understanding that you're about business. So if you bring them a deal, especially if it's on the wholesale side, you came and you need them to deliver, rather than if everything's electronic and you never have to see face to face. Now it's like, he just called me up one time and then he sent me over some documents to my email. There was no real substance behind it. So that's a real nugget that I hope somebody takes. They like, yo, here's how I could go the extra mile. I remember Brian saying that. Let me just ask him or her if they're available for coffee. That could be all you need to get there. And then, and what's crazy about it, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but what we don't think about when we call somebody up most of the time, we're calling them up off of one property, maybe a little package that we see. We don't know that they might, in a different LLC or something else, have another 20 some odd units that they're going to be looking to get rid of in the next year or two. And now if we built that relationship through coffee or whatever, man.
1000%, bro. And listen, and this is important for me to say, because people, I think a lot of times, like when they hear people like us that have had some semblance of success and we tell them what to do, they like, that don't work no more. They just saying that because that's what they used to do. Listen, I'm currently working on one of the biggest commercial deals of my life, of my career, in the last 14 years of me investing, because on October 20th, I went and got knee to knee with a guy. So I know this stuff works. I'm not just talking tongue in cheek. This is how I move. And I'm telling you, it will pay dividends. And in result of me doing that, I am now privy to some other stuff that he's got going on that's major. So yes, you are 1000% correct on that, Cass.
Man, so talk to me. One question that I have is, as you've seen the market back from 2006 to now where we are now, and obviously staying up on trends and everything, is there one area that you really like more than another? Some people are really starting to get heavy into mobile park homes. Some people are like, yo, this Airbnb thing is going to come back. People are going to be so ready to travel. Some people are like, yo, stay tried and true. The multifamily game ain't going nowhere, and single family homes, everybody's always going to need their own home. Is there one area that you're like, yo, like this is the lane that I'm going to stay in for the next 10, 15 years?
It's cash flow, bro.
That's
like
it.
When I was, like I said, I started out, I was 22.
So to be clear on that, hold on, and I know I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to make sure that the audience and everybody listening, when you say it's cash flow, you're saying that the lane doesn't matter. As long as the deal cash flows, that's all that matters? Or break that down when you say it's cash flow.
Yeah. So there's two different pieces to it. Okay. The first one for me is when I started out in cash flow, I started out renting properties. That's how I got started in this business outside of the private lending that I did. It's nothing like mailbox money. It's nothing like residual income. I made millions of dollars in active income, and that's okay. But it's about how much money can you make regardless of what you do in a day. When you wake up, how much money can you make regardless of you having to do anything about it? And I had over 20 rental properties in my early to mid 20s. And I just didn't appreciate it the right way. I was making $8,000, $10,000 a month on top of working in corporate. Like, bro, I was really set up. You know what I'm saying?
You was
And
really
just took it
getting the
for granted.
bag.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I come from an environment where I was in the streets and I was used to making chunks and fast money. So I didn't appreciate that slow money coming in. You know what I'm saying? And so again, that's why mindset is so important, because like now, fast forward, I'm 37 and my horizon looks different. You know what I mean? And I've done it all, and I've done the active income, but the cash flow is where it's at. And whether you do that through commercial multifamily, you do that through a strategic short-term rental or Airbnb model, or you do it the old school flat-footed way through buying rental properties. I just think that that's always going to be keen. There's always going to be other avenues by which you can go out and create active income through wholesaling and flipping, which is great. We teach all three because I think that all three are important. I think that you need to possess a skill set to where you're not a one-trick pony, and regardless of what the market throws at you, you know what to do with a deal that's most advantageous for that deal. Right. But ultimately, I think that as we go into this new economy, we're having a change in administration. We've got all of these forbearances and moratoriums that were in place that are now they're starting to come to a head. We've got unemployment spikes. We've got unemployment benefits that are being taken away. I think I read 14 million Americans by Christmas are going to lose their unemployment benefits. It is going to be a rough 2021. And so when I look at how things were in 2006 or 7, where everybody was printing money, anybody that had a post that wanted to get paper, it was available. Now, looking at this economy, if you don't have an income producing skill set and you're solely dependent upon your employer, you're really at risk. You're putting your family at risk. And I don't say that to scare nobody, but I have a responsibility to let people know, like, having a second stream of income is not a luxury, it's mandatory.
Facts.
And going into this year of 2021, it's imperative that everybody finds out a way to supplement their income through being able to actively produce income, but to set themselves up to passively have money coming in.
I love it, man. I love it. So focusing on cash flow, focusing on whatever it is that can continuously bring you that mailbox money every single month. And more important than the money, what is the freedom that you get, the opportunity to have choices for your kids, for your we all want to do some things in life because we're seeing every single day. Death is guaranteed. Life is really not promised. There's people that we knew that have been gone to COVID, whether you believe that it's real or it's not or whatever, that were super healthy. We see cancer. Now all of a sudden these vaccinations, they talk about it's 90% effective, where the other option is if it's not, that 10%, I'm sure if it's not effective for you, that might mean death for you, right? There's that 10%. So there's so many things. And so while we don't want to take it in that negative sense, what this means is that you have to be able to put these strategies and these game plans in place right now and focus on not only active, but passive. So you know that if anything happens, you have the freedom and you have the choices to be able to make sure people can still move that are in your circle. So again, another gem, and I appreciate you for dropping it. My next question for you is, and something that I've been wanting to know this whole time, you gave a little bit of nuggets in the beginning, but for you, when you first started out, what was there ever a book? Was there ever a course or something that you took to be able to get you this education? Because somebody out there right now, they've heard you say this 5 or 6 times, like, you got to go get educated. They're like, where do I go get the education? And I know that it could be a shameless plug, which we're going to make sure we put all of the links to your education. But outside of that, if somebody else says, where else can I go to get this education? What was that thing for you when you first got started?
So honestly, I did it all from the muscle. So I'm not a reader, bro. Like, I got a 4-year degree. Like, I read when necessary. It is not pleasurable for me, but what I did find, right, because we can't make excuses. That was my motto for forever, was that I'm not a reader. The reality is ignorance is expensive and you can't afford it. Right. So I couldn't succumb to, I'm just not a reader. So guess what? I read with my ears. I'm an audiobook guy now, right? Because I got to get the information one way or another. I'm an audiobook. I pay for seminars. I pay for mentorship. I pay for consulting. like I'm constantly investing in myself and others around me that can help to continue to develop my skill set and help me to evolve. So what I would say to anybody out there is you got to go read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm.
You have to. You
It's a game
absolutely have to.
changer. It was a game changer. If you're brand new to this, especially. But even if you've read it, reread it again, or even there's that second level, cash flow quadrant, that opened up some different things. I was like, what? That was the first time that I learned that for every dollar that a bank brings in, they can loan out $10. So you mean there were some things there that really just starts to teach you how money circulated, right? The Fed, all of these different things that if you come from where we come from, or even if you don't come from financial literacy, there's a lot of things that's being held back from you that if you don't go out and get that information, not only will you be behind, but your kids is going to be behind. Somebody's got to go get the information. And if it's not you, then who? You can't put your future and your legacy in someone else's hands. You got to take action on it yourself. So I love that you said that. That book changed my life as well. That was that first.
Just to piggyback what you said too, man. I think people need to understand is I think we've gotten, it's become so tongue in cheek and such a fad to say, I want to have generational wealth and I want to break generational curses. Listen, nothing changes without change. Like my father was a firefighter in Detroit for 30 years. My mom was a cashier at a grocery store for 25 years. There was no entrepreneur in my family in sight. So I had to go out and get the information to become the first generation millionaire, but that's not good enough either. Now I got an 18-year-old daughter that I got to download this information in so that not give her the money, not pass down the assets, but download the information in, because that's when the true generational wealth occurs. It's not the tangible things that we give them. It's the information that we provide them, right? And Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think, is greatly insightful to exploit exactly what we're talking about.
Man, so much wisdom right there. That's exactly what all those assets can be taken. If your business, somebody could slip and fall on your property if you don't have it structurally set up the right way. As far as your LLC or all those things, you could be sued. That could be taken. Your property could burn down. You don't have the right insurance on it. All of that stuff could be taken. You might just have to spend all of that cash money that you brought in for medical or whatever else, or to help somebody. But they can never take the information that got you to that point. So downloading it into somebody else. That's what I'm gonna tell CJ, my son. Every time he be like, I'm like, how much stuff I done downloaded into you? You better listen to what I'm trying to tell you. I'm going to find a way to say it. I'm going to find a way that is, look, brother, come over here. Let me download this information into you. Hey, like, you're going to appreciate this one day. I got it, man. I love it. The other question that I have for you is, looking at, obviously you said, like, people looking at where we are today, it looks totally different from where we started. And I know when I asked this question to a lot of people, they say they wouldn't change a lot of things, at least in the beginning. But I always like to ask it just in case, because I know that today we are wiser than we ever were. So looking back on it, if you could go back to when you first started, whether that's 2006 or even pre-2006, and if there was one thing that you wish that you could have changed, or you wish that you would have implemented sooner to accelerate your path on your dream and your journey to where you are today, what would that one thing be?
This is easy for me because I think about it constantly.
That $2.8 million that you gave away? We're going to keep it on topic.
Yeah.
Wins and losses, they come with being bosses.
Bro, it comes with the territory. I lost $500,000 trying to figure out the construction piece. Right? So it all comes with the territory. But what I would say is that I would have not taken for granted my situation. And when I say that, I mean that I wouldn't have partied so much. I would have changed my environment, the circle that I was around. Where we come from, it's like this bondage of, because you grew up in the hood, that like to get away and all of that is something shaming about that, or this bondage of you supposed to stay connected with the same friends that you came up with, and if you don't, that is something wrong with that. And it's like brainwashing, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a strong-minded individual, but I'm also loyal to the core. And so we come up with this understanding that as we evolve, we don't even talk evolution. That's the first thing. So we just think that we come up with these same people and eventually we do other stuff in life, but we gonna always have these same friends. And the reality is, and I heard Grant Cardone say this in a book. There you go, in a book.
In a book.
Um, he said, anybody that I'm around that tell me they've been best friends for 40 years, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Because the reality is God used people in not this is me, this is not Grant talking, but God uses people in your life for seasons, reasons, and lifetimes. And so we oftentimes, again, we try to hold on to relationships that have expired based on the season in which God used them in your life. And all because you came up with somebody through your adolescence don't mean that they are the people that's going to help to catapult you into that next place that you're trying to go in life. And so I know I'm going, bro, but this is one that's important to me.
I love it.
Many people held back in life because of friends, because of family, and they're being loyal to them, but they're missing out on their purpose in life. And so you got to be loyal to God, not to people, not to man, and let him move the pieces on the chessboard because he already got this thing predestined for you. You just got to have enough faith and trust in him and take the action steps and separate to elevate in order to evolve into the person that you were intended to put when you were put here on this earth. So I just got chills saying that, man. But for me, that's it. I would have cut ties sooner. I would have got more serious early on. I wouldn't have partied as much, and I would have got closer to God. Although I found him at a young age, I still didn't understand what that meant for the first 17 years of my walk with him. Those are the things that I would have done sooner.
Man, I love it. So much wisdom. Again, that's something that we all know, that there's somebody or there's something that we've hung on to and we haven't lived in our greatest purpose. And it's because of some type of fear, right? The fear of us being shamed because we changed, the fear of us wanting more for ourselves, wanting more for our kids, all of these other things where you look at it, and it's something that I learned early on, and it was said to me, and it was so powerful. And it says, listen, if you think about it, you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. And why that's so powerful is because if you know right now that you're not reaching your greatest potential, that every day you're feeling stuck, you're feeling frustrated, that means that that environment is holding you back and it's toxic. You're not healthy in that environment. That's where that frustration's coming from. When we think about it, anytime we catch a fever, it's our body telling us that, hey, something's going wrong. If we catch a frustration and then we get hot, like for me, I always know if like my ears get hot, like I just tell my wife, I'd be like, yo, my ears, that just means I'm super frustrated. As weird as it is, I'm frustrated about something. That's my body reacting and telling me, hey, something's wrong. And so for you, if you get that frustration, you got to look at that. And a lot of the times it comes because we're not doing what we know we need to be doing because there's some type of a fear. And a lot of the times it's our environment. So there's so much wisdom in what you just said. And I appreciate you for sharing, my brother. The last question that I want to ask you, and you've tapped into it so many times today, but I want to hear a concrete piece of wisdom that you would leave. But there's somebody out there right now that is very inspired by your journey, by all of the nuggets that you've given, that they want to tap in with you, but they have that little voice in their head. And that little voice says that they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. It's just crazy to think about after all the resources that we've given today. But if they do have that little voice in their head, what's the one thing that you would leave that person with to get them to just take action?
Do it afraid. My pastor has a saying that, because people always say like faith and fear, they can't coexist in the same space. And when you think about it, I guess that makes sense on the surface level. But the reality is that faith is not the absence of fear. It's the presence of God. And so us that are faithful, we do it afraid. Like, I can't tell you how many times that I've been afraid of doing, and I just do it afraid. And so does that mean it's going to go great? It don't. I'm just going to be honest with you. But that voice, you quiet that voice. And the more that you consistently do that, you develop that muscle of believing that you can do anything, and you just continue to persevere and you start living in your purpose. And then you become allergic to sitting idle and letting that voice cripple you. So
Right.
do not let that voice cripple you. Have faith, do it afraid.
Man, I love it. I love it. That's a beautiful way to take us out. I think somebody right now, they ready to run through a wall. They're ready to grab that first property. They're ready to walk out there on faith. And yeah, man, I just want to be, if no one else, I want to be the first one to tell you, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. If no one, I'm sure other people have said that, but today, if no one else has said it, I want to be the first one to tell you. Now, for anybody that wants to stay connected with you, we're going to make sure we put all the links in the show notes, but where can they find you at?
The best place will be Instagram, Brian_Adamson1. That's my IG. And then they can also go to www.iflip.university. That's our on-demand teaching modules. But in either one of those places, and I love for people to DM me. I'm not that guy. Like if you present yourself the right way, like I will respond to you. And I like actually engaging the people and whatnot. So feel free to shoot me a DM, anybody.
There you have it, people. Remember, as he said, do it afraid, because you have a dream. We all have a dream, and in the dream we trust. But if you don't take action on that dream, the reality of it is that dream will only merely be a fantasy. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this real estate journey. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.